Hey everybody, welcome in. We're just doing some setup, some chill, hopefully getting some people to pop in, and we will be starting our stream. I'm actually gonna go into some settings. I think I just don't like the chat notification at all for for Streamlabs. And I think that's fair. I think it's fair to just say I do not like the Streamlabs notification. So we're gonna go ahead and go into that and fix that. Font color, white. Font size, let's make it a little bit thick. And we want to add some CSS or bold font. Alright, save. We're gonna turn off the chat notifications. Make sure my VTuber model is still working. Okay. Or my PNG tuber. So I will actually be viewing the shadow dropping. It's the rumor, but like I'm observing the drama happening with Bethesda, the good drama, the game announcement for the remake, remaster of Oblivion. I'm excited about that. So I'll be watching that around 11. So we'll be streaming probably for about 3 hours, and we'll go watch the Twitch stream on Bethesda's channel, and then we'll hop back to doing some more development later in the day. So. Whew. I'm actually split on like whether or not I want the voice lines updated for Oblivion. It's like they're such classic memes, but like when you're giving everything a new coat of paint, like you want like I feel like I have no problem with the underlying like audio and like if you're gonna give love to the game in visual, like it's gonna be jarring if the audio is not like on the same quality. All right, let's see here. Visual settings, audio. Everything to double check in real time that we have everything the way we need it. The children yearn for Tamriel. Yeah. All right. Excuse me. Early morning session's gonna have me sneezing a lot. Hopefully not, but yeah. Alright, we're about to get into it. Let's see here. Anything I need to square away for the session? Pretty much everything on lock here, so.
Let's go over.
Oh, we don't want to. Let's have that start too early. So we're gonna give these videos. Oh no, like you actually have to get a subscription to let's see here. Let's see here. Alright guys, I will be opening the stream in just 1 second. We are going to be booting up to Chrome Capture. So we don't want to see the Chrome Capture right now. Because apparently, in order to do the tutorial, this is actually going to really hurt GDevelop's feelings. That's kind of a greedy move. I don't stand by that. That is a very money-hungry move to lock your tutorial for a tool that is a tool for a game jam. Like your tutorials for your game jam. That is tight-fisted, and I do not support that. Like in principle, I don't support that. That's just wrong. So if they end up seeing my stream, end up seeing my opinions, I don't care. You need to be more open to your community and like let them have access to all the learning materials. Like make that free and open, and like that will draw people in, and then like teach them about what resources and like what is reasonable or what is taxing for you to provide. You make that locked behind a subscription. So like multiplayer things or like server hosting or things for GDevelop, make that locked behind, but not your tutorials, guys. Come on, we can do better than this. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'm even going to pause the stream real quick. So it doesn't reveal any payment info, just in case. We're trying to be a professional. In the meantime, let me go ahead and fix this. But yeah, like locking your tutorials for a software that is meant to be like beginner friendly and meant to welcome people in, welcome people who like are like in a game jam, like that is like very well supported on the HIO, like that's just a whole nother type of greed, brother. wallet. I do this for you, your streamer, because I love you. what's the Heinz speech from Skyrim? Uh, I do this for you, Red Legion, for I love you. Yeah, you're gonna be hearing me reference a lot. Bethesda's Elder Scrolls series is one of my favorite game series of all time, and with them releasing or talking about announcing who knows what actually is gonna happen today, but with all the hype about the remaster, I'm definitely gonna be bringing it up a lot. Alright, now that we've gotten that dealt with, a dumb paywall, which I will do for you guys to prove, to show you whether or not the software is worth learning. But really this entire process is going to be like, there are gateways, and there's always going to be like hindrances and walls and like little obstacles to like learning the software process. But like, this is why I am extremely a supporter of the open source free software. Like, anytime that there is a community that's actively creating things like Godot, I am a heavy proponent of it, especially if the community like licenses their software and licenses things in the community in such a way as to like very much defend and promote and create a culture of a thriving community, a thriving subculture within their software group, of like development and like safety and not like basically bringing a stone for blood, basically. It's ridiculous when companies try to do that, especially if people are new. Like, you're just trying to get in. You don't even know if you'll use the software. You don't even know if you're not familiar with it. You don't even know if it'll be good for your workflow. You don't know if you're good at a game dev. So like, they shouldn't set bars to a process of learning. They should set bars to success. So like, the Unity has a reasonable model. The Unity software is free. Godot is preferable to people because I think Godot doesn't charge people even if you're successful. They don't charge any amount of money. Unity only charges you once you make over a certain amount of money. They charge you to license once you sell a certain number of copies, or you make a certain amount of money. Like, you have to up your license with them, and that's reasonable because they're basically getting a proportional cut proportional to how well you're doing. Like, even that is too much for some people, and they want something completely open source, allowed to be used in any project, even commercial projects. So it's up to you, but like, make sure you read the licensing. Licensing's a really big deal, especially if you're going to be making games that you want to sell. Like, double, triple, 3 times check. Like, are things CC0? Have someone, and like, what that means. Is it copyright free? Is it copyright zero? Has someone completely forsaken it and put it in the public domain? You want to really double check like attribution and things, because like, that opens you up to legal suits and lawsuits when you're making games. All right, let's see. Game develop. So we're gonna be.
Let's go over extensions and behaviors. Behaviors are pre-built logic that you can attach to an object and can do basically anything you want them to. And the engine comes with dozens of these behaviors ready to be installed. Everything from platformer controls to a health system and so much more. You can see that some of these behaviors are built for specific objects, and so then they show up as incompatible with this object type. So I can add a behavior to the object by clicking on it, and then it shows up in the object's behavior list. So this is the draggable behavior, which means that now if I go to preview the game, the player object, which has the draggable behavior, can now be dragged around. So those are behaviors. Each behavior is built differently, and some of them will even come with their own events. Now for extensions. If you go to your project manager, you can go down to the extensions section and click on create or search for a new extension, and you'll find the extension list. An extension is basically anything that doesn't come with the engine by default. So extensions can come with new actions and conditions, new behaviors, and even entirely new objects. And there are two different lists for extensions. The official reviewed list of extensions, which is what you'll see by default, but you can also flip this toggle. These are extensions that are built by community members that just haven't gotten through the review process yet.
It's really important that you really look at any time you're using an extension. Is like basically, I'm not sure for this, but it's an injection of code into like the core software. Like you're injecting code as like an external module into the rest of the IDE to add more functionality. But if you're using a community thing, you really need to either really trust the community member and he needs to be an upstanding member of the community, or you need to let it be peer reviewed and like go into the library that is accepted and approved and like uh, checkmark TM like approved by the software developers of the IDE, because the really bad thing that can happen is if you don't do that, you are injecting code that might be malicious or harmful or like bad for your players, bad for you, might be collecting information, might be collecting financial information or software information. You don't know. So it's a bad idea to do that if you don't know who's making it and you don't know the code is working.
Because the officially reviewed extensions go through a lot of testing to make sure that they work as well as possible. Between the officially reviewed and the community extensions, there are hundreds of extensions to download and use in your game. Everything from gamepad controls to animation effects, flashing, transitions, and way more. As an example, if I look up Snap for Snap to Grid, I can install the rectangular grid extension, and it'll show up here in my extension list as an extension that's installed in the project. This one just comes with actions. So if I create a new event and add the action to snap object to a virtual grid, I can select the player, and if I go to the event scene and turn on the grid, you'll see that the grid is set up to be 32 by 32. So the object's full height and width is 64. So if I set this to 64 as well, for the height and width, and then preview the game, now when I drag this object, it will snap to that grid because of the action that comes with that extension. The draggable behavior plus that extension can be used to drag a character along a grid. Extensions can be really useful for a lot of things, like condensing your event sheet. If you click to create or search for a new extension, down in the bottom here you can create a new extension. And through this interface you can make an entirely new extension on your own. But we won't be covering that in this video. If you'd like to learn more about how to make your own extension, there's lots of information on the wiki. But you can also open existing extensions to see how those extensions work. Hopefully now you understand that a behavior is logic that gets attached to an object, and an extension is basically any kind of logic that doesn't come with the engine by default. If you'd like to continue learning about the engine, be sure to check out this video. Logic that doesn't come with the engine by default. That a behavior is logic that gets attached to an object.
Yeah. So that's just our how we're going to be doing our script, how we're actually going to be making the meat of the game, like the logic, like the behavior of the game. It's essentially how we do coding in a non-coding IDE or software like game development software like GDevelop. There's some that are more they're called drag and drop or plug and play IDEs. They're built towards younger audiences of game developers to get into the process of an IDE more so than they are like scripting. Like you learn scripting later as you like learn your programming language, you become more comfortable with it. There's nothing wrong with a drag and drop, and honestly, I actually appreciate getting back in on one. So we are going to go back to key. We're gonna go ahead and minimize this. So here's the tasks for this project. We're going to go ahead and open the template. It's going to close everything out for the second one that we're working on. All right, this looks like it's a vertical scroller for a shooter, or like not a shooter. What am I saying? It's a vertical scroller for like an asteroid or Galaga game. I'm forgetting the genre name. I don't know how in the world it's like forgetting what the word side scroller is. My brain is breaking. Let's see here. It's a shmup, shoot 'em up. Uh, Manipulate an object's position with a behavior. Open the ship object and through the behaviors tab add the draggable object behavior to it, not the physics version. What is it? Ship object. Behaviors. Add a behavior. Draggable. Alright, we added a draggable. Add an automatic movement to objects with behavior. Is the music too quiet? I want to get it to a good sweet spot. Add automatic movement to object with a behavior. Open the asteroids object in the object list and add the rectangular movement to the objects. Then set the values for width and height to 200. Open all tasks. Now let's preview the game and click touch to drag the ship to move dragging around. You can try and click to pick up stars while touching asteroids. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and test that again. And then we want the preview window, which is just bringing up the IDE again. So let's go ahead and fix that. We want it to be actually GDevelop. Preview. Here, let me look up some settings because like I prefer an in-window like instead of an external window that I have to like set up a different window and it opens and closes and I have to close it out and restart it. I prefer an in IDE debugger or an in IDE like previewer. So let me see if there's a setting for GDevelop real quick. We're gonna be like doing a little bit of setting and like maybe if you're gonna use GDevelop, you can follow what I'm doing. I'm doing this just because I'm streaming, but you don't have to, so let me go. Hide that preview window, and then we're going to pull up our browser. We're going to look for GDevelop preview in IDE. Yeah, preview and viewport. That's what I'm looking for. To see your game in action, previewing your game, preview. So this is a wiki for the GDevelop community. Preview. Apply your changes to live preview. Start multiple live previews. Overriding the scene used to start a preview. Launch a network preview. So if you're using a network game. Okay. Launch a preview with the debugger and the profiler. Preview in IDE, not in external window for GDevelop. That's what I want. Here, let me open the software again. we're gonna go to our settings, properties, resolution and rendering. Game description, branding, icon. No, we're looking for properties, packaging, publisher name. Mobile variables, resources, game dashboard. No, none of that. I'm looking for the IDE level settings. Yeah, I want to change the settings for the integrated development environment. Change IDE settings for development. Now we get to preferences window. By going to project manager, the preferences in the desktop version is found under files and preferences. So let's check that again. File, preferences. Okay, cool. Okay, so let me go ahead and walk you through what I'm looking at here. Gonna minimize this. You go to File, Preferences. If you're using the desktop version, the desktop UI themes like GDevelop. No, that's no, we like it dark here. Blue dark. Let's see here. That's a little bit more readable. Nord. Oh, I like that. That reminds me of Godot. I might stick with this. Solarized dark. Nah. I am a fan of Solarized, but not for this one. Alright, we're gonna stick with Nord. Code editor. Okay. GitHub. Yeah. I want to get used to just using GitHub, I guess. Layouts. Reset scene editor layout. Dialog backdrop click behavior updates. Auto download and install updates. Display what's new when a version is launched. Display object thumbnails. Escape key. Indent. Advanced. Auto save project on preview. Yeah, that's good. That means every time we preview the game, it's making a save, which is good in case we're saving it to the cloud, so we don't lose progress. Even if we're saving it to our machine, we want it to save often. Automatically log in as a player in preview. Automatically open the diagnostic report. Send crash reports. Automatically take a screenshot in previews. Hide the menu. Always display the preview window on the top of the editor. Ask AI. Show me the Ask AI button. No, I actually want to turn that off because I'm trying to avoid AI. I am taking a staunch, not Luddite, complete contrarian anti-AI, but I'm just like, for my creative process, I want to embrace learning on my own, to expand my own understanding of the media tropes and media tools and media shorthands. So AI can do that, but it's not healthy for it to do that for you. You want to understand the shorthand so you know how to create something in terms of design. Display save reminder after significant changes. Nope. Automatically reopen the project edited during last session. Show community. No. Show a warning. Duplicated. Contributor options. Scene editor. So is there an option? That's what we want to ask. Preview in viewport. Use this scene to start all previews. Change the preview starting scene in GDevelop. Locate the preview button. Open the dropdown and select use this scene to start all previews. This forces the game to always begin from the selected scene, even if you're editing another scene. Okay. Here, let me just look up, like, this is like a valid thing, because I'm used to Unity and I'm used to like just like it not popping up an external window, and the reason I'm looking for all this is like it's streaming, so like I can I don't have to open and close a separate window and like reset up like the preview thing for Streamlabs for you. GDevelop. Um, do you have to open a, a, a preview in another window, an external window? Okay. So the bad thing is what I'm about to show you is like an only a subscriber thing. I am not like just going to like hand wave the fact that they ask you to subscribe to get speakers. That is definitely a crooked thing. If you guys don't want to keep following along, that's fine. I'm showing you the value of learning a new software, not inherently GDevelop. I will also be learning Godot later down the line. Um, but it's more so principles I'm following here and like explaining different ideas like as I learn a new piece of software, like just the process of learning a new software. I will say like the culture of the software you get behind really matters. I support projects that have low bars to entry and are open for like vertical progress and open for like as you succeed they help you succeed. um, I'm not as confident in GDevelop because I had to get a subscription for it to access some things, but like let me go ahead and just show you. So we're gonna go and change some of the settings. Start network preview. Use this scene to start overviews, launch previewing in a new window. Start preview. So it's always going to open up a new window. So launch preview in a new window. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to drag this to the right screen setting. I am, of course, going to there we go. That's the game. So we're going to close, we're going to minimize this. And the game is going to be on top. So it's going to be showing our preview on the left of every time we bring up our game. And I'm going to minimize it whenever we're not working on it. So let's see here. Alright, and you can live update it. So like that is a feature that's only for for subscribers or like members. That is dumb. Like these are actual useful features being locked behind paywalls. Um, and I, as a proponent of this, and as on principle, even if it doesn't get me a bunch of views, like I will call things out when I see them, like moving forward for any of my streams, any of my development streams. Like I want you guys to get good resources when you find them. Godot is definitely one of the editors and IDEs that doesn't do this. If you're interested in looking into that, I'll probably switch over to that one for another game jam. But for now, we're working in Develop. So let's see here. Add automatic movement to object with a behavior. Open the asteroids object in the object list, add the rectangular movement to the list, and then set the values for width and height inside the behavior to 200. Okay. So add rectangular behavior movement. So rectangular movement. Yeah, we'll go ahead and update the extension. There's always behavior this type. Cancel. Alright, so we're gonna set to 200 like I said. And then horizontal edge duration 3. We're just gonna double check that that's what they wanted. Horizontal and vertical edge duration towards 3. So let me just fix that real quick. So now that's gonna that lets you drag. The first thing we did was drag, and now it's moving. It's easing in, so it's tweening essentially. Tween is a term you'll find. Let me go ahead and look up the actual meaning of tween. I use it. The phrase is used. No, tween game. In animation and game development, a tween refers to the process of smoothly moving between two keyframes or two positions. So you're attempting to smoothly move between transition between either position, size, color. So it's essentially like uh, um, a smooth intro, a smooth transition to something along basically a curve. You'll learn that in Unity. All right. That looks like it's doing everything we want it to do. So we're gonna go save this to the cloud. Premium course behavior spot. Basic. Alright. Control the ship with top-down movement. Open the ship object, remove the draggable behavior object, and then add top-down movement for a directions behavior. Your device has a keyboard. You can preview the game and control the ship. Mobile controls will be added later. Okay, so this is where we start getting it. Delete. We want to remove this behavior. Directional movement. Top-down movement. Advanced properties. Top-down. Default controls. Apply. We're going to update this. We're going to check this out. See if it accepts our controller. It does not accept our controller, but it accepts left, right, up, and down. But that isn't the behavior that I expected. I don't like that it like slowly turns to the position. It rotates it. You would imagine like it just stays most of the time in like a yeah, most of the time that is not the behavior I expected for that. Most of the time it doesn't auto rotate your pixel, your icon. You just expect the Galaga ship to just stay facing forward and it would strafe left or right or up or down. The arrow keys, some behaviors like top down become default inputs. You'll learn more about that. Give the ship a joystick controls with the remapper behavior. Open the ship object, then add the top-down multi-touch controller mapper behavior. Then drag the multi-touch joystick object. Yeah, so give the ship object and then add the top-down multi-touch controller. So we want to do top-down multi-touch controller. That multi-touch. So that added a multi-touch joystick into our scene object. Then drag the multi-touch object from the object list to the game scene and preview the game to see the joystick in action. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're on the right layer and we're gonna create a new layer. Uh, we're gonna undo. Here's the base layer, and here's the resources layer, or like the HUD layer. Not the HUD, the UI layer. And we're going to switch to the UI layer. Drag this in, and since we're using, it's gonna be like IO. We'll use that at the bottom. Then drag the preview the game to see the joystick connection. Joysticks work with both cursor and touch. Now you can use your mouse to do this, and you can also use it if you have a touchscreen, like if you import this to your iPhone. I'm not gonna be real, like, I don't, this may be a hostile architecture thing, but like, I am from a different generation of game development. I am not exactly designing for people who play on mobile. I don't look down my nose at people who play on mobile, but like, I'm designing for primarily like people playing on a desktop. Like I'm designing experience for people on desktop, so that's what I'll be going for in this game. Yeah, back in my day, but like, dude, like everybody, I'm gonna piss off a lot of Zoomers. Everybody playing games on their phone with their thumb. Nobody. What's that old Boondock quote? Where the guy in Boondocks basically says like, "Ain't nothing important ever been sent by tapping a message out with your thumb. Ain't nothing important. Ain't no Hemingway book been typed by your thumbs. No important game has been played by your thumbs. Like you play a game with controllers." Or with your index fingers and your ring and key fingers on a keyboard. All you put your hand on the home row. Back in my day. Yeah. Alright. Combine behaviors and create unique movement patterns. For an extra challenge, open the asteroids object and add the ellipse movement behavior to preview the game and see the new pattern created by the two behaviors. So we want to add ellipse movement. New behavior. Ellipse. There's already behavior this type. Yeah, we don't want to do it twice. I need to find a way to like, because I'm double clicking it, so it's probably trying to add it twice. Update. Alright. So I'm in the Unity, or not the Unity, in the GDevelop editor. I'm going to open this up. And that is changed the movement of the asteroids that you can collide with. I don't like the default behavior of the top-down module. I might end up writing my own modules, to be honest. Okay. Have I seen Clash of Clans or Subway Surfers? Yes, I've seen good mobile games. I'm not saying mobile games are bad, but it won't be my first intention and my first goal, like my first the first community that I will be catering to. And this is just, I think it is not wrong to exclude communities. It's wrong to like it's not wrong. Oh, let me very qualify that very problematic possible statement. It is not wrong to know your user base, that you yeah, gasp. It's not wrong to know the user base. Excluding community has a different connotation of like people, but like it's not wrong to know your user base, like, and like know who you're serving, and know who you want to create a game for and why. And if as long as those reasons are valid, it's not wrong to like basically say, I don't want to make a game for the mobile market. This game is specifically um, for desktop or legacy system players, or like consoles or things like that. And you can have reasons for that. Like you can have like marketing reasons. Market research says like a lot of like indie games do well on like Nintendo or handheld devices, or like the Steam forget what the Steam handheld device is called. It's a Steam. Uh, what what is this the Steam handheld called? Yeah, the Steam Deck. All right. But yeah, it's not wrong to know your audience. There's a lot of things to be said in game design by like designers better than me who have more experience, who've made way more games and have a bigger library of material. Basically saying like one of my favorite guys, the guy who made the lead designer on New Vegas, and Tim Kaine, the lead designer on Fallout 1, both said like a lot of uh, game players don't know what they want until you give it to them, and will actually give you. This is a thing that happens in software development, where they'll give software requirements, and like they don't actually know what they want, and sometimes if you bring them something even better than what they want, or different but like different functionality, but like more cleanly implemented or more forward-thinkingly implemented, like they'll be like, oh, I prefer this implementation, and it's like. It's not to say you always know better than people, or like you should always think like, oh, I have a better idea than you, or like always write somebody's feeling off. But like, if you have a good reason for saying like this is the community that I want to go to first with my game, it's basically I'm trying to think of how it is in certain. It's said in like on Steam and certain like circles. It's basically like you can't make a game that satisfies everybody, because there are different aesthetics that people come to a game for. Like, so like if you from the outset try and make a game that everybody wants to play for everybody, you end up making nobody happy. So you have to know what kind of experience you're delivering to who and why. All right.
Let's talk about events in GDevelop. Events are used in GDevelop to help set up your game logic and give you direct control of things in your game. Everything from your game's score to player movement and enemy logic will mostly be done with events. So we're going to go through some examples and show you exactly how they work. For the first part of the video, we're going to be going through this example. So every game scene has an event sheet. You can add an event to your event sheet by clicking here, but because this would be hard to read like this, we're going to scale it up a little bit for the video. So you can think of event logic as if it were if-then. So if the condition side is true, then the action side will happen.
And they're kind of
so if I
through that
preview
so
this game,
scripting later.
It's kind of hard to see because the art is so small. So I can click to add a condition, and then I can search for the condition at the beginning of the scene, and then click to add an action for camera zoom, and we'll set the value to 4. So now, at the beginning of the game scene, the camera will zoom in 4 times its default value. So now when we preview the game, it's much easier to see. But now let's apply some logic to an object. So we'll add a new event, and add a condition, and I'll search for key pressed. And in this case, I'll use the up key, and then the action to add a force. I could just type in what I'm searching for because I already know what I want, but I could also click on the player object to get the list of actions that work with that specific object. And then I can search through that list to find add a force. I'm going to set the speed in the X direction, so horizontal speed to 0, and then the speed in the Y direction to -50, which will make the plane go up. I'm going to set it to an instant force, so it's only applied when the key is pressed. And so now, if I press the up key, making that condition true, we'll add a force to the player object going upwards. Next, I'm going to add a sub-event. So I'll add a new event, and then click to drag the event under an existing event. So I can add an action to this sub-event to rotate the player object at an angular speed of 50. And now when I preview the game and press the up key, the player moves up and rotates. And that's because this key press condition is true, which triggers the applied force action, and then after the force is applied,
the rotate action is triggered. If I drag this event block back to being in line with the other events, it now has no conditions because it's not attached to the event above it. And if there are no conditions, it means the conditions are always true, which means that when the game is previewed, the rotation action will continuously run. And pressing the up key will only apply that upward force. The event sheet in GDevelop is very modular, and basically everything in it can be dragged, copied and pasted, moved and arranged in whatever way you want it to be. You can also click on any colored text in an action or condition to change how it works and what it's affecting. So we can change the key pressed to down, change the objects being affected by the action to enemies, and then change it to a positive number. And now when we preview the game, the enemies will move when we press the down key. And if you make a mistake, you can click on and delete individual actions or conditions, or the entire event.
Yeah.
And then undo or redo those changes with these buttons, or with Ctrl Z and Ctrl Y. For organization, you can add event groups, which are basically folders for your events that you can name and put your events in. And you can add a comment, which is basically a note to yourself, or just titles that help you separate different parts of your logic. You can add a new event to your event sheet, either with the button to the left, the button in the top right corner, or with the right-click drop-down menu. But there are also other types of event blocks. The most commonly used other types of event blocks are for each object, for which you can select a certain object, and then that event will repeat for each instance of that object in the game. And then there's also the repeat event type, for which you can specify how many times you want the event to repeat per frame. And speaking of per frame, the event sheet is actually read from top to bottom every frame of the game. So if your game runs at 60 frames per second, your conditions will be checked 60 times, and if they're true, your actions will trigger 60 times. So let's move over to the second example with some enemy logic so we can better explain the order of operations of events. So in this game scene, we just have a sprite object with a rhino in it, with two animations for running and hitting the wall, as well as a point on the rhino, called collision, to check to see if the rhino is hitting a wall. So here we have the event sheet, with all of the rhino's behavior inside of an event group. So this is the logic for moving right, and this is the logic for moving left. So every frame that the object isn't flipped, this condition will be true, meaning the action to move the rhino to the right is being triggered. Then the engine continues down the list, checking to see if the rhino's animation is finished, which it isn't, and since that condition is false, the engine ignores the next condition and doesn't trigger the actions. But then it'll go down to the next sub-event and check to see if the rhino's collision point, the one added to the object, is inside of the wall. And if the rhino is currently running, that won't be true either, so the action doesn't trigger. But then still within the same frame, the engine will check to see if the rhino is horizontally flipped, and then because it isn't, the action won't trigger, and all of the sub-events will be ignored. As far as order of operation goes, just remember that every frame, the engine is checking the event sheet from top to bottom, starting with the conditions of each event as it goes, and if the conditions are true, then they trigger the actions one after another until all of the actions in that event have triggered. If you want to learn more about GDevelop, then be sure to click on this playlist.
Yeah, I've had some. I was actually. Why am I doing this convoluted mess? Just to show that like people can learn. I may regret it, but it was the first game jam, and it was like a game jam in a new piece of software, and like it's an opportunity to basically teach someone like the whole process, more so the important process of always like being able to learn and adapt and like integrate a new integrated development environment. I integrate a whole new piece of software and a work environment into their like library of their skill suite. Like basically, you always want to be like adaptable instead of just like stuck in like, well, I only know assembly or I only know basic or I only know Unity. Now I have already complained in this video, Bakan, that like in order to get access to some things, in order to get access to the tutorials to learn how to use this IDE, it was locked behind a paywall for $5. And like I raised Cain about that because like I am very much a proponent of like open source free education and like yeah, it was definitely a very gibby money like thing, and like it's like underhanded, and I don't like that, especially because their HIO is supporting them and they're part of the Game Jam page, and like a lot of people are like they're basically like funding people who probably are going to forget that they made a subscription, and they're going to basically be taking money like for several months from people. Um, I just think that's underhanded. Like if you want game developers on your platform, make a good platform and then like make it available for them, and like do what Unity does if you want money. If you absolutely want money, if you don't want to go the full charity route like Godot, or the full open source route like Godot, do what Unity does. Only charge them once they make enough copies or make enough sales. Like make them upgrade their license if they like hit it big. All right, let's do this. Create. We're gonna open the template. Close this project. Okay, so this is kind of like a Mario situation we got going on. Create a new event block. Create a new event at the top of the event sheet with the condition at the beginning of the scene and an action background color with the color to 25, 80, 192. 25, 80, 182. Those are some magic numbers. Events. Yep. So what we want to do is we want to go into create a new event at the top of the event sheet.
Let's talk about before.
So I didn't actually see how he opened the event sheet where that is in the ID when I was watching. So oh, it's in the game events. It's in this tab right here, not in the game scene. Okay. Oh, my bad. My bad. I just missed that. Create a new event at the top of the event sheet at the beginning of the scene with the background color. Create a new event. At the beginning of the scene. Okay. Background color 2580 192. Alright, update. Let's preview the game. Rearrange conditions to create new logic. By dragging the conditions visible in the event sheet. Here, open Alt S. By dragging conditions visible in the event sheet, change the existing event so that the player dies when they touch a coin. So drag conditions, but then preview the game. Okay, so it's wanting to either think abstract and then create it. So like player dies, animation of player death, play the sound, player dies, player is in collision. Oh, you can create notes too. Add a comment. So you want logic for when the player dies, and it's evaluated top to bottom. So coin pickup, players in collision with the coin. Play the sound, player dies, players in collision with coin. Then preview the game. Nope, didn't do it. So let me check. Player is in collision with coin. Change the animation of player set to death. So it no longer has collision with enemies. So we're gonna rename this enemy. So we're gonna keep the same behavior before, and then we're gonna just change it in the section where it has the first interaction with that. Player. Change the animation. Player set to death. Okay, update it. There we go. So apparently you can't set two simultaneous, you can't have two event blocks that modify the same set of like the same if statement back to back. That's a little weird because it said that it evaluates it top to bottom, but I guess you contain all the logic for touching the coin within one block. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. All right. Check the opposite of the conditions by inverting them. Invert the condition of the events where the player dies if they're in collision with the coin, and then preview the game. The player will now repeatedly die when the game preview is running. This is because the condition has been inverted and now checking for the opposite. So the player dies because they're not in collision. Return the condition to normal for continuing on with the next task. So it's just trying to show you like how to invert a condition. So like player is in collision. Invert condition. Update. And now you'll just be dying. any conditions, create a new event, then dragging conditions and actions visible in the event sheet. This game's music's a little loud, a little loud. We're gonna adjust it. We don't want it that loud. Create a new event, then by dragging conditions, actions visible in the event sheet and those in the conditions action pool, change the events so that all coins have an instant force added to them towards the player each frame. They have an instant force added to them. This didn't preview the game, so that's gonna make the create a new event, and then by dragging the conditions actions visible, change the events so all coins have an instant force added towards them, towards the player each frame. So basically, you want to have a condition. Add a new event, condition each frame. No, this isn't the one I want to use. Like update. So update. Let's look for conditions. General variables, timers, and time. Here, we can go to Google for this. Condition GDevelop for update every frame. So no conditions. Oh, no conditions will happen every frame. So that actually makes sense since it reads it. So basically, we cancel that. Create an event without any conditions. Create a new event, then by dragging conditions actions visible. Those actions change all events, so all coins have an instant force added to them. So we want to do an instant force. Instant force towards the player. Towards an object. Towards the player. And speed. Let's say 5. Alright, then we're going to update. Pick the... So every frame it's supposed to be moving towards. Alright, so let me go ahead and Alt-Tab out. fix the events, get rid of this whole dying thing, delete that line, move, add condition. At the beginning of the scene, no, we want this separate, so I want to cut this and add it here. Oh, let me paste what I cut. Paste sections. Okay, there we go. Right, update. Yeah, and now there's a force dragging the coins towards the player. Expected that much. Cool. Alright. Use conditions for basic object picking. By dragging the conditions actions visible in the event sheet, and those in the conditions actions pool event group, change the existing events so only the coin near the nearest to the player's origin XY position will move towards the player. By dragging conditions, so only the coin nearest the player's origin point will move towards the player, and only while the player's on the floor. Okay, so we're gonna make some more logic. Every frame, add condition. So what's the logic behind that again? We want to say only the coin nearest the player will move, and only while the player's on the floor. So sets array from the given source position to the final point. Let's see here. We want to. When a condition applies to multiple instances of the same object, they pick which instance of the object. In the game scene, they pick which instances they will apply to because the conditions will be true for some instances but not others. Point. No, we don't want that. That's not the logic that's gonna happen. All right, so this is where I'm having trouble thinking programmatically about like how to solve this problem. Yeah, my VTuber froze. So we want to drag the drag the conditioned icons visible and those in the condition. Change the existing events. So only change what we have. So only the coin nearest the player's origin point will move towards the player. And only while the player is on the floor. I actually don't know how to solve this. Let's see. You want to change the existing event so only the coin nearest to the player. Player's origin point will move. Here, I think there's a for each thing, so let me see for each. Pick a nearest object. Alright, so you want nearest object, objects, position. We want the position, the center of the player. See, that was easy. Center, Y position of the player. And we want to move this logic to here. Easy, save. We're going to save this lesson 3. Okay, sections. We're going to test that real quick. We're going to update it. Yeah, so only the coin nearest starts floating. See? Only that coin is floating. And then that coin will float. Alright. And then what was the other half of the logic that I wanted us to do? I have a horrible time keeping in mind. This is why I need a fucking notepad that like keeps a list of all the current like ideas I have and current like tracks in, and I need to always open on a third monitor or second monitor. Only while the player is on the floor, and then preview the game. So let me add another condition to that. And add another condition, and make it a sub-condition. Player is on the floor. He's on the floor. How do I make this a sub-condition of that? Delete this. We add a new event. We add condition player is on floor. And we Yeah, so that's how we want to add a sub event. So we gotta right click that. I just need to learn how to make a sub event. We're gonna move that here, and we're gonna move this here, and that'll fix the logic, and it'll only float to us when we actually are on the ground. There we go. And just to double check for sanity's sake, player is on floor, pick the coin that is nearest player. Okay, so you don't actually have to make them sub conditions. So it checks both of them. It checks both at the same time as for all those conditions to be true. So we could have done it a little bit differently. So we did achieve the same thing, but when a game condition applies to multiple instances of the same object in the scene, they pick substances to be true, not for others. Okay, cool. Segment your logic with sub events. In the project manager, open the second scene named Game Scene Reset. By dragging the conditions, actions visible in the event sheet, and those in the conditions action pool event group, by creating sub events, change the existing events so the platform bridge object rotates when the player is in collision with a coin. And the player is only able to collect the coins while jumping in preview this game. So we want the platform bridge object to rotate when we're in collision with a coin. Let's say 30. That is the logic they asked for. When players in collision with a coin, rotates, and the player is only able to collect the coins while jumping. Player jumping. Okay. Update. So every time we collect a coin, it is rotating. Oh, we died? Okay. I don't see the behavior for rotating happening, so let me double check something. Coin pickup, we want to rotate it at 30 degrees. Let's say 180. Update. And then we'll die to the enemy. This is up. That's what we want. Platform bridge object rotate when the player is in collision with a coin and the player is only able to collect that coin while jumping. Yeah. So we definitely want to rotate it. Just I forgot the lesson is using sub events. So here, let me. I'm an idiot. Let me go ahead and delete this or cut this. Let me make this a sub event. And drag this here and drag this. We're updating that. So we added a sub event, so it only happens so long as we're jumping. Then preview the game. And here, I'm gonna add the rotate to just when the player is in collision with the coin, and because that seems like what it's asking for us to do. We're gonna die real quick. Oh, we're gonna update it. Nope, that's not right. Let's preview. Okay, so we some of the logic wasn't updating. Some of the logic wasn't updating because the live update didn't work for GDevelop. So I think you need to close it out and reopen it every time. That is only just going to be a difficult thing for our stream. So like, let me just stream just the monitor. Let me uh, minimize this, minimize this, minimize this, and just use a display capture. At source. There we go. All right. So that way it'll track everything that we're doing, and we can just keep opening, and it'll capture us when we open, and we have the logic. We can't collect it. We only collect it when it jumps, and it rotates so long as we're in contact with it. And let's double check that that is like the answer. Yeah, rotate it when it was in collision, and we moved all the other logic to when we had the jump key pressed, or yeah. All right, cool. All right. Prevent repeating logic with the trigger once action. By dragging conditions in actions visible in the event sheet, those in the event group, create a new, that's kind of a wordy thing that they keep saying. Create a new event where coins are created at random distances from the player object center point when the cursor or touch is on an instance of the coin object. When the cursor or touch is on instant point. So add the trigger once this event, so only creates once condition, so it only creates like one coin each time the cursor sweeps over an instance. Okay, cool. That's gonna be easy. So we want this in the game event logic. So we want to say So we want to say, what's the logic here? Create a new event where coins are created at random distances from the player's object center point when the cursor or touch is on an instance of the coin object. So we want a condition. So I'm gonna do it like we'd be doing. We want to add some code. When cursor hovers coin, uh, uh, do once. So then we're going to create a condition. Cursor touches on an object, a coin, yes. Add condition, trigger once. And then we're going to, new coins are created at random distances. So we want to create at random distance from the player center point. So we want to create an object, coin, random distance. Let's say 10, random distance. No, let's say 40, 30, yeah. 30 and random 30. So we want a random distance between two player and nope, that's not exactly what I want. So we want to create an object, coin, and we want it to be uh, position distance between two objects, player and coin. Nope, that's not quite the logic. So let's look back at the requirement and see exactly what we're doing. So we want to create a new coin at a random distance from the player's center point. So let's go ahead and get the position um, of the player's center point. Create object, coin. So we want to get the position of the and we want to get the position of players Y. And we want to modify these numbers, so we're going to have an offset. We want to modify it by a random integer within 30. And a random integer in range -30 to 30. Yeah, so we want to add that part. All right, and then preview. All right, so every time we hover over it, it creates one. It only triggers once, and it'll create a random distance from us. All right, and that seems to be basically the logic they wanted. Trigger once as needed when a condition will be true for a prolonged period of time. Yep, we did it exactly like they wanted. Nice. We thought through that and solved that problem. Okay, discover the repeat event type. If you want an event to trigger a specific number of times in a single frame, you can use the repeat event to do that. Add a repeat event block to your event sheet. Replace the event block with the newly created coin creating event with this repeat event block and set it to repeat 10 times. Alright, so we want it to repeat 10 times. No, those are the conditions, so we want the action. We're going to right click, add, repeat. How many times? 10. So it's adding a repeat below, but we want to change the repeat, so we want to modify it for this specific block. Copy and paste. So we want to copy, and then we want to paste conditions. Interesting. I'm trying to understand how this block works, but let's see if we just do repeat 10 times, if that will repeat it. Nope. So repeat 10 times. I wanna look at the solution before I solve the problem for this one because I have an assumption that repeat 10 times, the cursor touches on coin, trigger once. Yeah. All right. So how do you in the IDE without having to drag everything over because that's a little ridiculous. How do you add the repeat just to this one? Yeah. Hmm. Let me look at up GDevelop so that I can find a better workflow for that. How to add repeat in GDevelop to a block you've already made. Oh, my cats are fighting. Okay. So we want to delete this block. I don't know how to undo what I just did. So you catch. Okay, yeah. All right. That's a little weird. That's not great for workflow because that means like if you realize you want to repeat something, you have to drag all of it. Let me ask in the community. So let me go ahead and over to the community. As I'm walking through the tutorials and I am learning the repeat. Yeah. So anytime you want to learn really well, just plug yourself in the community. If you have a question, it doesn't matter how mundane it is. People are like eager to let you learn. So I'm walking through the tutorials and I'm learning the repeat event um, condition. Is there a simple way to add it to an event block you've already built? Or do you have to drag everything you've all you drag the logic you've already made to a repeat that you add? In the meantime, I'm also going to be messaging the guy I'm planning on working with. Alright, in the meantime, we're going to keep trying to figure this out ourselves. They really should let you change the, like, function type, function, repeat. So you do have to, we'll add all of this and then paste. Huh. Oh. I'm adding the logic. I wasn't even looking at the condition I was changing. So like we're gonna add repeat, do 10 times, and then we're gonna copy this block for when we touch the coin. Actually, we're gonna drag it. I have to copy it. And then, yeah, preview. 10 times. Every time we do it, we'll repeat 10 times. And let's just check, double check. So they expect you, instead of making a sub block, to uh, add a repeat. So like, and we're getting a comment on our thing that we posted in the GDevelop Discord. Basically, I'm saying that I want, okay. So he did say, no, you can't change the block. So this block is a repeat block. So you do have to like basically copy paste all the stuff that you're doing. And you can cut it and then paste these conditions, and paste the actions. So that makes it a little bit quicker. So I just hit Shift and selected. All right, cool. And that was that. GDevelop. Discover the event. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and go into the next video. This is going to be the last section. We're going to cut it off after this because it'll probably be about 10 o'clock. I'll get some breakfast and then we'll basically, I'll join in over at the Bethesda event for the release of Oblivion, the remaster, hopefully.
Variables are used constantly in video games, with the most obvious example being for the player's health, where if the player gets hurt, you subtract that damage from their health. So their health is a number that varies, or a variable. In GDevelop, there are 5 different types of variables: text, number, boolean, array, and structure. And in this video, we're only going to cover text, number, and boolean, and we'll cover the next 2 in a later video. Now, on top of the 5 different types of variables, there's also 5 different variable scopes: global, scene, local, object, and instance. So let's start with a very basic number variable. If I preview this game, you can see the character runs around, and when I run into the gems, they get deleted, but the gem number doesn't go up. So let's change it so that it does. So in order to add a variable to my game, I need to declare it. And I can do that by opening the scene variable panel, which I can get to by going through here, or with this button here. From the properties, I can go to scene variables. Now in the scene variable panel, I can add a variable, and then I'll name it score. And then I can pick the kind of variable that I want, and in this case, I'm just going to leave it as a number variable, and I'll leave it at 0. Then I can go to the event sheet, where when the player is in collision with the object, it deletes the object. So we want to add in 2 different actions, one to change the variable, and one to change the text. So to begin with, I'll look up variable, and there are 2 different basic actions for variable: change variable value, which works for global, scene, and local variables, and then change variable value for objects. So since we're working with a scene variable, I'm going to open this one. And you can already see the score variable that we added is there. And you can see right here the icon for scene, telling you that this is a scene variable, and number. So I know the score variable is a number scene variable. So I can select that and change the modification sign to add and 1. So now, when the player collides with the object, we delete the object and add 1 to the score variable. Then, we want to change the text of the text object gems, which is this text object here, and we want to change that to quotation gem plus, which you can use to combine text inside the quotations with a variable, score, which is the variable that we just made. If I start to type in score, I'll be shown the variable that I want to use. And there we go. So now when I preview the game, we'll delete the object, add 1 to the score variable, and then show that score variable on screen. And now that we have that set up, you might actually realize that you want your score to go between different scenes. So if you have a level 1 and a level 2, and you want your character to be able to go from one level to the next and carry that score with them, a scene variable isn't going to work, because a scene variable only exists as long as you're in that scene. So if you go from one scene to the next, that variable gets erased. So in that case, you'll actually want to use a global variable, because a global variable applies to all scenes in your game. So in the project manager, you can go to global variables, and just like scene variables, you can add a variable, and this time we're going to call this global score instead of just score. And again, we'll leave it as a number and 0, and press apply. Now, with this change variable action, you'll actually see the global variable show up as an option in the drop-down menu. You can see again the icons, global and number. So it's a number global variable. And if I click on that, this action works with that global variable. If you click here, now that it's a global variable instead of a scene variable, we'll open up the global variable side of the panel. And I can switch back and forth from scene to global variables when editing variables from the action. And then we can press OK. Now, we want to use the global variable instead of the score variable. So now the text will read gems and that global variable instead. Now in the second scene, we still haven't added those actions, so I'll copy those over. Then we'll make the text action happen at the beginning of the scene, along with when we run into the coins. So in scene 1, if I run into all the gems, I'll be sent to scene 2, and that global score variable will keep the number from level 1 to level 2. Now let's talk about a new type of variable. So this is an instance of the enemy object. So if I go to the enemy object, I can go to its variables and add a variable for direction. And I'll make that one into a Boolean variable, which are variables that are used kind of like light switches. They can be either true or false, so on or off. So I can set the direction of the Boolean variable to true on the object, but this is an instance. So by default, it will have that as its variables. But if I go to the properties panel, down here you'll see instance variables, and I can change this to actually be false instead. So now, this instance of this object has its direction variable changed to false. And if I copied that, I could set this one to true, and so each one would be different. So what I want to do with this Boolean variable is make it so that the enemy goes back and forth when it runs into these posts. So I'll go to the event sheet, and in this section I have made here, I'm going to add the condition for the variable value of the object, and I'll select enemy as the object, and right now this is set up for a number variable. But if in variable I select the Boolean, it changes to the true-false selection for Boolean variables. So these conditions are if it's true or if it's false. And then we'll use forces to make the enemy move. So we'll add a force to the enemy object with 0 in the Y direction and 50 in the X direction. And then we'll do the opposite for the other side by making it a negative. So now if the Boolean is changed to true, they'll move at a force of 50 pixels per second to the right along the x-axis. And if it's false, they'll move at 50 pixels per second to the left on the x-axis. And then we'll add conditions for collision with the left or right signpost. And then we'll add actions to change that Boolean variable from true to false or false to true when they run into these signposts. So now if I preview the game, you'll see the enemy going back and forth when they run into the signpost because it goes from true to false to true to false. So we've shown number variables and Boolean variables. Let's quickly show off text variables, which can also be called strings. And the quickest way to do that is to swap out this Boolean variable for a text variable. So if I go to the object and go to variables, I can change this Boolean variable to a text variable and set it as right. So now instead of true and false, we're going to go with left and right. But because we already changed this instance's variable to false and made it specific to this instance, in its instance variables, it still thinks that direction is false. The simplest thing to do is to just reset this variable. And there we go. So now in the event sheet, These no longer work because they're looking for text instead of a Boolean. So if we go into it, we need to set the modifier, and we'll set it to equal and right. So now, if the direction of the enemy is equal to right, it will go to the right. And conversely, if it's equal to left, it will go to the left. And so we need to change these variables as well. And just to really hammer home how this works, let's create an event without a condition and have the text set to the text variable of this object. So to do that, we need to type in enemy, so the enemy object, and then dot, and then you'll see the direction variable in the list. So it's enemy dot direction. And you can see it changing from right to left to right to left. Now the last thing with text variables is that when you're setting something to text, it needs to be in quotations, because otherwise it won't work. And now the last scope of variable is local. Let's make a new section for it, and I'll show you how to use it. So if you right click on an event, you can go to add, and then among the other types of events you can add, there's local variable. If you click on that, you'll be given the local variable window. I'm going to use it in this example to just randomly spawn objects. That local variable attached itself to the event that I added the local variable to. Unlike all of the other kinds of variables, local variables aren't saved from frame to frame. So whatever happens to this variable in this frame is forgotten by the time the next frame comes. So now I can set this local variable to random in range 0 to 3. I can add 4 different sub-events with the condition for the value of that variable. So if it equals 0, 1, 2, or 3, then I'll just create an object at the position of the cursor with cursor X and cursor Y. And I'll just pick 4 random objects. And then add a condition for if the mouse button is released. And now I'm creating random objects whenever I click. And the reason you would do it this way is because local variables don't show up in the declared list in any action that isn't a sub-event of that local variable. So you can make a bunch of local variables, and it won't fill up your declared list, and will only affect the portion of events that are set up as sub-events below the one the local variable is declared in. So this local variable works here because it's below the event, but it wouldn't work here because it's not a sub-event of where the local variable is declared. You can access this local variable by double-clicking on it, and you can add as many local variables as you want to inside that block. We're going to cover arrays and structures and some other ways to use variables in future videos, but for now, be sure to click on one of these.
Alright, so that was basically introducing us to more advanced logic, variables and everything, like basically the object-oriented principles of like scoping. Those will come up. Global and it's like the scope that a variable has. You can learn that in data structures and things. Like you want to usually use local variables as much as possible for things. So unless it's like a across game wide, that way like you have a locally scoped variable, so it can't just suddenly be inspected all at once. It gives a little bit more security. It's just a common practice. So all right, let's move on. Open up GDevelop, control health. So we're gonna do this project. Display Display your player's score with a scene variable. Open the scene variable list. Declare a new number variable. Name it player score. Okay, easy enough. Open scene properties, scene variables, add a variable, player score. In the event sheet, open the event group in task 1 and open a change variable action and set it up so the game adds 1 to this player score. Task 1, so. Alright. Set it up so the game adds 1 to the score variable. Global objects, scene objects. And we want the variable. Change variable value, player score. Add 1. Alright. Finally, open the change text action for the text score object. And start typing player score into the text field. Change the text to player score. Yeah, there we go. Then to preview the game, click touch the game scene to move, and watch the score go up when enemies are deleted. Nice. Nice. There we go. Good enough. Set up scaling game difficulty with the scene variable. Enemies in this game spawn using a timer, and the amount of time is determined by an existing variable known as scaling difficulty, set to 3 by default. In the event sheet, open the event group named task2 and open the change variable action. Set it up so the game multiplies the variable scaling difficulty by 0.97. Okay, task 2. Change variable scaling difficulties set to multiply by 0.97. And which means these enemies will start spawning quicker and quicker. You can test that letting the game run on forever. And they're spawning faster and faster. Okay, cool. And just a sanity check because we want to make sure we did everything. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what we did. Display your player's high score with a global variable. Open the global variable list, declare a new number variable, and name it player high score. In the event sheet on the event group named task 3, open the variable condition and set it to check if the player high score is less than, yeah, variable player high score is less than player score. And then we want to change it probably to the high score. Yeah, so it sets it. All right. And finally, open the change text action for the text high score object and start typing the variable name into the text field. All right. Change the text of high score, set to player high score. Nope. We want to set it to the actual variable. We don't want to set it to just player high score. All right. Here, let me turn on some music for you guys. All right. I'm currently looking at Spotify trying to find the setting for pausing and resuming play. Just make a shortcut for that. But in the meantime, all right. So we want to finally open change text action for the text high score and start typing the variable name into the text field. Pick high when it shows up in the drop menu. Then preview the game and see how the highest score is displayed after you lose the game. So I didn't wait to check the behavior. So it only updates it after you lose the game. Let's go ahead and lose the game. Screen shake. Yeah, there we go, and it updates it. Cool. Give your enemy's health with an object variable. Open the enemy's object from the object list and add a new number variable to the object called health and set the default to 3. So enemy's object from the object list. Called health and set it to 3. Yeah. Alright. Easy peasy. In the event sheet, open the event group called Task 4. Inside of Task 1, drag the change enemy's variable action to the event above it. So it triggers when a bullet collides with an enemy. Then set that action to subtract 1 from the enemy's health. So let's see here. Task 4. We're just gonna read that over again. In the event sheet, open the task 4 variable. Drag the change enemy's variable action into the event above it, so it triggers when a bullet collides, and set that action to subtract 1. Yeah. Man, I'm dumb. I'm reading this over and over and over again. I'm sorry, guys. In the event sheet, open the event group called Task 4. Drag the change enemy's variable action into the event above it. Change enemy's variable action. Subtract by 1. Then set that action to subtract 1 from the health variable. Drag the enemy's variable condition into enemy dies. Event below it. Inside task 1. So drag the enemy's variable condition in. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So the enemy's object with this variable condition is true. Less than or equal to 0. Okay. preview the game to see that the enemy's object takes 3 hits before it's deleted. Okay. Alright. That was good behavior, and we're going to double check our sanity check every time. So we want to drag this behavior. Yeah, change the variable, add score +1. So that's the only thing we got wrong. Change the text to player score. Delete enemy. Yep. There we go. Change your enemy's starting health. The enemy's object in this game has 4 different animations. 1 that isn't being used during gameplay, and 3 other animations are randomly picked for when it's created. Animation 1, 2, and 3. Open the event group called Task 5 inside of Task 2, and change the variable action for enemies. So it sets enemy's health variable, sets the enemy's health variable to equal to the animation number of enemies. Animation index. So it sets the enemy's health variable equal to the animation number. There we go. Open, then preview the game to see how enemies each have their health variable set to the animation number when they're first created. 1, 2, and 3 health. Toggle power-ups with a boolean. In the open scene variable list, declare a new boolean variable and name it power-up state. Then in the event sheet, open the event group for task 6 and change the first variable action in the first event. So it sets up power up state variable to true, and then change the second change. Okay, so give me 1 second. It's gonna be a boolean. Task 6, change the first variable, so it sets the power up state variable to be true. And then change the second change in variable action after 5-second wait, so it sets it back to false. Finally, re-enable the disabled extra bullets event. Oop. Double click too many times. State to false. Okay. Re-enable the disabled extra bullets event and change the variable condition so it checks to see if the variable power-up state is true. Re-enable the disabled extra bullets event. So re-enable it. So I don't know. Toggle disabled. Okay, so you can disable. I did not know that, so that's cool. And change the variable condition so it checks to see if the variable power state is true. Then they preview the game to see the power up activate and deactivate 5 seconds later. Okay, cool. Yep, and that's our power up. And it's active for 5 seconds before it stops. Yep, cool. Toggle states with local Boolean variables. Drag the mute button object into the game so it's clearly visible during gameplay and change its layer to the UI layer. Then preview the game and try tapping on the mute button several times. Yeah. So like we're gonna drag it into screen. We're gonna set it ideally to the bottom right. We're going to set its layer to the UI layer and then preview the game. My bad. I close the template. Oh no. Well, that would have been an easy one, a simple one, so we'll just skip over that last one. It basically would have taught you, see here, you would have gone into, you would have put it on the UI layer, then tap the button. Notice it doesn't do anything. In the event sheet, open the event group for task 7 and set both change variable options so they will change the local Boolean variable mute toggle to false. Alright, and that's going to be this episode. We will finish up the part 6 and 7 and maybe 8 on our next session. Probably about I'll start around 12 o'clock, so we'll hop in and do that from 12 to 3. I will see you guys later, and I will be over in the Oblivion the Oblivion Bethesda Twitch, viewing the news for today. So hopefully that'll be exciting. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.